The cockpit was drenched in blood. His co-pilot was dead, slumped forward across the controls, body pressing the stick into a fatal dive. 8 of his crew were wounded. 1 engine was on fire. The bomb racks were frozen, full load still aboard. 20 German fighters were circling for another pass. William Lawley pushed the dead man aside with one hand. With the other, his left hand, his only working hand, he pulled a 40,000-pound burning bomber out of a death dive. Then a waist gunner crawled forward and told him something that changed everything. 2 men in the back were too badly wounded to jump. Lawley could have ordered the others out and ridden the plane down alone. He could have accepted the mathematics of survival. Instead, he made a decision that defied every instinct of self-preservation a human being possesses. He stayed.
William Robert Lawley Junior was born on August 23, 1920, in Leeds, Alabama. He was a quiet, unremarkable young man by most accounts, a high school baseball pitcher who drove a truck for the Sinclair Oil Company after graduation because his family needed the income. He was not looking for glory. He was not chasing history. When the United States entered World War II, Lawley enlisted with the Army Air Forces out of Birmingham, Alabama, in April 1942. He earned his wings and his commission at Altus, Oklahoma, in April 1943. By November of that year, First Lieutenant William Lawley was in England, assigned to the 364th Bombardment Squadron, 305th Bomb Group, 8th Air Force. His aircraft was the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. His job was simple, brutal, and statistically lethal. Fly deep into the heart of Nazi Germany, drop bombs on industrial targets, and make it back. The odds were not in his favor. In 1943 and early 1944, 8th Air Force bomber crews were suffering catastrophic losses. Some missions saw casualty rates of 30% or higher. Men flew, and men did not come back. It was that simple. By February 1944, Lawley had completed 9 missions. He was on his 10th when the world came apart.
February 20th, 1944. The operation was called Big Week, a massive Allied air offensive targeting German aircraft factories deep inside the Reich. The goal was to destroy the Luftwaffe's ability to build fighters before the D-Day invasion. Over 1,700 Allied aircraft would fly that week. It was the largest sustained air campaign in history to that point. Lawley's target that day was the Messerschmitt aircraft factory at Leipzig, Germany, deep, heavily defended, a long way from home. His B-17, named Cabin in the Sky, took off from RAF Chelveston in Northamptonshire with a full crew of 10 men and a full load of bombs. They flew east across the gray English countryside, climbed to altitude, crossed the channel, and pushed into German airspace. The bombing run went as planned. The bombs fell. The target was hit. Then, coming off the target, everything happened at once. Approximately 20 German Focke-Wulf and Messerschmitt fighters dropped on the formation simultaneously. The attack was sudden, coordinated, and ferocious. Lawley's B-17 took direct hits almost immediately. A 20-millimeter cannon shell killed his co-pilot instantly. 8 of the remaining crew were wounded, including Lawley himself, struck seriously about the face, bleeding heavily. The dead co-pilot fell forward across the controls. Cabin in the Sky pitched into a steep dive. At 12,000 feet, diving and accelerating, Lawley did the only thing he could do. With his right hand, he shoved the dead man's body off the controls. With his left, bleeding, in pain, vision blurred by his own blood, he hauled back on the stick with everything he had. The B-17 began to respond, slowly, agonizingly. He pulled it level. Blood covered every instrument on the panel. The windshield was smeared red. Visibility was almost zero. One engine was burning. The controls had been partially shot away, making the aircraft sluggish and barely responsive. The bomb racks were frozen, the full load still aboard, adding thousands of pounds of dead weight to a dying aircraft. He ordered his crew to bail out. There was a long pause. Then a waist gunner came forward. Two men in the rear, both severely wounded, could not move, could not jump. If the plane went down with them in it, they would die. Lawley made his decision without hesitation. He told the others they could go. He was staying. German fighters attacked again. Lawley evaded them somehow, using what remained of his controls, rolling and turning a half-dead aircraft with one good hand while bleeding from his face. One engine caught fire a second time. He extinguished it through sheer flying skill, using the aircraft's attitude and airspeed to starve the flames of oxygen. Then he collapsed. The blood loss and shock finally took him under. He fell away from the controls and hit the floor of the cockpit. The bombardier, who had chosen to stay with the plane, rushed forward. He revived Lawley, brought him back, put him back in the seat. Lawley took the controls again.
He flew west. He crossed Germany. He crossed France. He reached the English Channel. He reached the English coast. One engine ran dry and had to be shut down. A second engine caught fire and kept burning. He did not have enough altitude for a normal landing. He did not have enough aircraft left for a second approach. Ahead, a small airfield appeared. Lawley fired the emergency signal. He brought the burning, broken fortress down in one pass. The aircraft hit the ground hard, skidded, and came to a stop. Every surviving crew member walked away. Cabin in the sky was beyond repair. The aircraft was written off entirely. William Lawley was hospitalized for his wounds. He returned to flight duty and completed a total of 14 combat missions before being reassigned in June 1944. On August 8, 1944, First Lieutenant William R. Lawley Jr. received the Medal of Honor, the United States military's highest decoration, from Lieutenant General Carl Spaatz in a formal ceremony in England. The citation described his actions as conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. The two men he had refused to leave behind both survived.
Lawley remained in the United States Air Force long after the war ended. He rose to the rank of colonel, served in Brazil, the Philippines, and on the faculty of the Air War College at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. He retired in 1972. He was not a man who spoke much about what happened over Leipzig on February 20th, 1944. He gave few interviews. He did not seek recognition. He was, by all accounts, exactly the same quiet man who had driven an oil truck in Alabama before the war found him. William Robert Lawley Jr. died on May 30th, 1999.
Memorial Day. He was 78 years old. He never made the history books in the way that generals and admirals do. Most people have never heard his name. But on a February morning in 1944, with blood in his eyes and a dead man at his side and two wounded men who could not jump, William Lawley decided that the most important thing in the world was to bring his crew home. And he did. There is a question at the center of this story that has no easy answer. What does it take for a man to make that decision? Not the decision to be brave in a sudden moment of heat, but the decision to stay, deliberately, consciously, with full understanding of what staying might mean. He stayed anyway. Not because he was told to, not because the regulations required it, because two men in his care could not leave, and he would not leave them. The world depends on men like that more than it knows. If you want more stories like this, stories of ordinary men who did extraordinary things when it mattered most, subscribe to Stealth Line. A new story drops every week.